So far, we've looked at how to do things in WordPress, and it's time to actually put our skills to use now because we've learned all of the basics now. So it's time to actually apply our knowledge and do something with it. But before we start to do that, let's actually have a look at how to build a software, because this is a fundamental aspect of doing things with our knowledge that is very critical when we are working with technology. It's not just sufficient to know different technologies. We actually have to get familiar with the process of using those technologies to build a product. This is the critical aspect of being successful with being a developer. A lot of people know a lot of things about different technologies, but very few people are actually successful with using that knowledge to build products that work. So it's very important to know this process, to understand the process, and then be familiar with it and start to actually use it. So in this video, I'm going to briefly talk about this process of building a software product. So let's get started. So the process of building a software involves several steps. This is actually part of the general understanding in the industry. There's a thing called Software Development Lifecycle. So while you're learning the process of building a software, you may see this image or similar images quite often. So what this depicts is the development lifecycle of a software. So when you have an idea to build a software, you have to go through a certain series of phases in which that product takes shape. And we're going to look at this multi-step process right now. So the first step is requirement gathering and analysis. In this, we start to take requirements as to why we actually need that product. This is very, very, very important, because if you don't have a clear understanding of why you need something, you're not going to be able to shape that thing. So in this phase, you won't even think about the product as such. You would think about the needs, the unmet needs that you have. So for example, if you're working with somebody, and that person is having a lot of manual work being done, and you're trying to automate that using a software, you need to have an understanding of the manual work that is going on, which the software is supposed to automate and make easy. So in this phase, you'll gather insights about what is actually happening, how many people are involved, what they're trying to achieve, who that work is benefiting, what are the timelines involved in the tasks involved. So you try to get as much detail as possible about the situation where the product that you're trying to develop is going to be useful. Okay. So you don't even touch the product right now. You don't even think about what the product should be. You just think about what the needs are that the product is trying to satisfy. So broadly speaking, that is the first step. The second step is the design. So now you have an understanding of what the needs are. Now you try to design a product from the end user's perspective. It's important that you take into consideration the situation in which this product is being used. You also take into consideration the people who are going to be using the product. So you have to have an understanding of the mindset of the end user and also the situation in which the product will be useful. So based on all of these considerations, you design the product. You try to come up with a concept of what it's going to be like. And in this phase, you'll also think about how you'll actually build it, because design doesn't just mean what it's going to do, but also how it's going to work. Because you may design something really, really fanciful that may not be possible or viable to be completed. So it's important that you also consider not just who is going to be using it, how they'll use it, but also how we're going to build it, and also how feasible it is for us to build the product using the approach that we're thinking about. So you'll come up with a blueprint basically. The first step is about getting the requirements documented. The second step is about creating a blueprint for the final product. And the third step is basically to follow that blueprint that you've designed in the second step, where you use the technologies discussed in the second step and try to build the actual product that will mimic the concept that we arrived at in the second step. So the third step is just about implementation, just following through with the blueprint designed in the second step. And the fourth step is testing. So by the time we're done with the third step, we'll actually have a product in our hands, and then it'll be a matter of putting it to test to see if it actually does the things that we wanted it to do in the designing step. So we put it through a certain quality assurance. This is also called a QA cycle, where the product is tested for quality assurance. And usually during this phase, there's a lot of things that get discovered about the product. Maybe some things don't work the way they're supposed to, or some things would need to be changed. There are some things that may not have been considered during the design process that would come up during this testing phase, and we may have to go back and refine the design and then implement that improvisation into our new product. So that would be the testing part. It would basically be about screening the application or product for flaws and basically putting it to test. Then the fifth step is deployment. So let's say the product is put through a lot of tests and it comes out successful, as in the product actually works the way it's supposed to. Now comes the time for deployment, as in you take the product to the people who are supposed to use it and give it to them. In some situations, this would be about publishing a website, or if it's an internal application that is supposed to be used by a closed team of people, then you publish that product so that it's accessible just to them and give them access. So basically introducing our product to the end user. That is what the deployment phase is. There are a lot of things that go through each of these phases. I'm not talking about the details. I'm just giving you a broad overview of how things work. And then finally comes the maintenance stage. Let's say that you publish your product. So you've reached it to your end users. Now it's not done yet. It's not like that product is going to be just okay on its own. Maybe a few weeks down the line, something may break down, or some flaw that we didn't discover during the testing phase came up and we may have to fix that bug. So things like this can happen, or maybe everything was fine and then some technology that you were using had an internal bug in it, or maybe something crashed, or maybe there's a hardware malfunction. All these things can happen. So maintenance will just be about making sure that the product is able to do what it's supposed to do even after completing it. So that's what the maintenance stage is. So this is a rough outline of all the things that need to happen before a product is developed from the beginning to the end. I hope this gives you some idea as to how a software product is created. And it's important to keep these steps in mind as you go about building a software, so that you're following a certain established process that can help you in building something robust. So what we're going to do is, in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can use these steps to build a website using WordPress. I mean, this actually applies to everything, any kind of software development. But since we've been doing WordPress for some time now, I'm going to use this process to build a website for a school. And that should give you an idea as to how we can apply this in real life. Make sure to like and share this video so that others find it, and also subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.